This is my September haul. So this month I brought in seven books. 4 of them are special editions, one of which is a special order and another one is a quarterly subscription. So I will not be getting 4 special editions every month for the foreseeable future, but let's dig into them. I am going to talk about the August Illumicrate and Owl Crate, and I think it was the July Evernight books. So if you don't want to see those, don't watch this first little bit. So the Owl Crate book was Hemlock and Silver by T. Kingfisher. This cover is very beautiful. You can see the edges have the same kind of foiling that the front of it does. Then the back also has that. And then I really liked the Naked Dust Jacket. I really liked the color shift that this foiling has on it. It says Materia Botanica Volume 1. I don't think that this is part of a series, but it might be. And then it has the actual title on the side, and then plants on the back. And then the end papers, very pretty. They don't have any foiling in them, but they're still very nice. And then the back of the dust jacket looks like this. Just black, white, and red. I don't know. Oh, it says it's a dark reimagining of Snow White. T. Kingfisher's fantasy tends to always be a retelling. Her horror isn't always a retelling, but her fantasy is. And I've had good luck with her before, so I'm excited for this one. And then this one is the Illumicrate book. I showed this on my Instagram, so I won't show a deep dive of this one right here. This is Voidwalker by S.A. McLean. This is the same author as The Phoenix Keeper, which is going to be in the wrap-up, so I won't show you that one or talk about it much, but this is a series from this author. Phoenix Keeper is a standalone, and this one is a series. I'm excited for this, but also I'm not going to tell you much about Phoenix Keeper because I already vlogged it, so I'm not going to give you like a synopsis or anything. I didn't really love it. It was okay, like I gave it a 3 stars, but it definitely wasn't 5-star material, and I don't know. If this book ends up not being a favorite either, I might just not read this author anymore. This next one is also from Owl Crate, but it was a special order. So if you happen to get one of their books that is a series, they usually will continue the series and like send out emails to everyone who ordered who got the first in the series, so you can get the rest of the series in the same editions. And I got The Spell Shop last year. I have not read it. Everyone has told me that they think I will like it, and I think I'll like it too. So I decided to go ahead and get the sequel, The Enchanted Greenhouse. It's very similar style to The Spell Shop, but it's green instead of purple. I really, really love the Naked Dust Jacket. Very pretty. These are the edges. That's hard for you to see. They're like green and light green flowers and vines. And then the back of the inside of the dust jacket looks like this. While these editions are very pretty, I do think that I liked this series more in their original covers, but I just happened to end up with the Spell Shop from Owl Crate last year, so I guess I'm collecting these editions now. Right, and the last special edition I got is The Library at Hellbore, and this is the Owl Crate book. It's hard to see in this lighting. These are the edges. They're like little pomegranates and bugs. And then the naked hardcover. It's very pretty, very creepy. And then we've got end pages. Maybe if I bring it over here, it'll be easier to see. So this one is a horror book, and I think it's like a school where the graduation is, oh, the inside of the dust jacket's blank, it doesn't have anything. But I think the graduation is like a free-for-all where the teachers try to murder the students, and whoever is left standing is the ones who graduate. I don't know if that's true, but that's how I've heard it pitched. Right, and then I have 3 other books that I hauled. I did go to Orem earlier in August, and I was waiting an hour or so after my conference ended to head home in the hopes that traffic wouldn't be as bad. It didn't work, but I stopped at a bookstore and I got a plant and 2 books. So I got this one, Moonbound by Robin Sloan. I don't really know anything about it. I just know that I've had my eyes on it for a while now, and I have really wanted to buy a copy of it. I do wish that I had looked a little closer at this copy. before paying for it because the inside of it is like really messed up, and I paid $30 for this book and I did not know that it was messed up like that. So I think this is like a fantasy sci-fi, and this is the same author as Sourdough and Mr. Penumbra's 24-hour bookstore, both of which I also want to try. And at that same store, I also got the Dungeon Anarchist Cookbook. This is the third book in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. Dungeon Crawler Carl is, I'll just tell you the plot of the first book. In that book, planet Earth is basically scheduled for extraction. So they are like aliens are coming to extract all of the resources from Earth and like leave it for dead. And they give all of the people who are not in a building, because all of the buildings get smushed at the beginning, and anyone who is not in the building are the ones that get to try and win the planet back. And the way they do that is by going into a dungeon and basically being dungeon crawlers, and they have a certain amount of time in each level. There are 18 levels, and they have a certain amount of time before that level of the dungeon is destroyed and the next one opens. And so if somebody makes it to the end of the dungeon, then they win the planet back. But this has not happened on any of the other planets that the dungeon has been created on. So Carl, I'm assuming, is trying to do that. In the first book, I think they make it through a few levels, but they're nowhere near 18. And I think there are 7 or 8 books. So we've got a lot of time to spend with Carl. I'm actually planning to read the second one in September, and then probably get to that one before the end of the year. So I'm excited for that. They just get thicker and thicker as the series goes on, though. And the last book that I got this month was The Hounding by Zenobi Purvis. I think is how you say that. This is a historical speculative fiction, I think. It's mostly marked as historical fiction, but from the plot, it sounds like it's also a little bit of speculative fiction. This was my aardvark pick for the month of August. It says it's The Crucible meets the Virgin Suicides, in this haunting debut about 5 sisters in a small village in 18th century England whose neighbors are convinced they're turning into dogs. It's very short, and it sounded very interesting, and I also just love the cover, so that's why I picked it. And those are the 7 books that I got this month. We can go into the books that I read now. Alright, so before we dig into the books, I'm going to give you a few stats. I read 19 books. I think 12 of them were books that I owned. I think one of those 12 was the audio of a physical that I own, and I own both the audio and the physical, so that is double counted, and that doesn't like add to the 19. That's just one book and 19. And then for my owned library stats, I am up to 737 owned, which is still not the highest my number has ever been. I think 738 is the highest it's been so far. And then of those, I've read 292, and last month my total was 282 read. And that brings my percent read almost to 40%. It's 39.6%. And I can tell you how many unread books I still own. So I am down to 445. My goal for the end of the year is to be below 400. We will see if I get there. I am considering marking the rest of the Sherlock Holmes series that I have on audio as DNF'd, just because I read 2 of them. I didn't love either of them, and that's part of why I haven't finished the rest of the series, and that would take, I think, 7 books off and get me down to 445, or 438, not 445. And then I have a couple of other series that I have on Audible, and one of my big goals this year is to finish the Audible books so that I can delete the app, and I want to try the first one in the series and see how I like it, and if I don't enjoy it, then I'm just not going to finish the series, pretty much, and that'll help the number too. I've also been doing periodic shelf audits, I guess you could call them, where I go through one shelf at a time and get rid of things that I don't think I'm going to read. The last one that I did, I only got rid of one book. It's over there and I don't want to get up to get it, but that was The Red Pyramid by Rick Riordan. I have not read that, but I did read The Lost Hero, and I know I've attempted The Red Pyramid, and I didn't like the writing style of that one. So I'm not really sure how that one made it past the cut, or how it made it through the last move, because I know at that point already I was considering not reading them. So I'm not really sure how it made it to this house, but we are listing that one on Pango. It's a hardcover. I think it might be a first edition. I'm not positive. So if you want that, go check out my Pango. I have plenty of other shelves that I can do audits on, and I do think I will get rid of quite a few of them, and I'm trying to be more liberal in DNFing. So when I start a book and it's just not vibing with me, I'm just not going to keep it. We're not doing it. I'm also contemplating taking the Stephen King books that I have off of this list, because whether I read them and dislike them or not, I am going to keep them because they are my dad's books and they were some of his favorites. So even though I don't like them, I do want to hold on to them to feel closer to him, you know? So I might take the Stephen King books off. And if I do that, I think that will remove about 20 books or so from this list. So that'll help a lot. And they'll just get relegated to a separate shelf that are not for books I want to read. They're like to look at only. So those were the owned library stats. I'm not going to tell you the genres for this month and stuff like that, because I think a lot of these got marked as romance because it was like a side genre. It was not the main focus, and that has skewed my genres in Storygraph to show that I read like 15 romance books, and that is not true. So I don't think that telling you those genres is going to be helpful this time around. But we have 19 books to get through, so let's get going. First off, I'm going to talk about the Illumicrate books that I read this month. I am not going to tell you much about the plot because I did talk about it in the blog that I'm making for this. And those should be coming soon. I am working on them as soon as I edit these next couple of videos. But I read 4 this month. And those were these 4. I will tell you my star ratings. So Goddess of the River was 5 stars. Voyage of the Damned, I originally gave 5, but I think I'm going to drop it down to 4 just because I did love it, but it wasn't like the best book ever for me. Dark and Drowning Tide, I'm pretty sure I gave 2.5 or 3 stars. It was not that great for me. It was hard to follow. And then The Phoenix Keeper, I also gave 3 stars because The Phoenix Keeper basically boiled down to I could tell what was going to happen from the very beginning. So there was not a lot of intrigue for me. And there was supposed to be. So that's these. I think I am only going to hold on to Goddess of the River and potentially Voyage of the Damned. So that leaves us at a total of, counting the for sure's keeps, that leaves us at 4 unhauled and 1 kept. And I have 5 more to get through. So it's not looking great for Illumicrate. Alright, next up we'll start with the physical books that I have read, and then we'll move into everything I got from the library, or ebooks that I had. So I read Someone You Can Build a Nest In. This was for the Swamp Stampathon, the Far Far Away Stampathon that I was doing with Tori Between Pages and Stephanie Bookish. This was not what I expected it to be. It was still good. I gave it 5 stars. But I was sold this book as Shrek in book form. And Shrek is one of my all-time favorite movies, and I strongly disagree with that comparison. I think the only things that were similar to Shrek was that they were hunting a monster the whole time, and it was set in essentially like medieval times. So the setting was very similar, but the tone of this was very different from Shrek. This was a lot more dark and serious. There were funny times. I guess I should tell you the plot. Give you a very brief plot. So our main character, Shasheshin, is a worm, spelled W-Y-R-M, and she can shapeshift and like turn herself into a human on the outside. On the inside, she's not a human, but she can look like a human and trick people that way. And the Wolffire, I think is their name, the Wolffire family is hunting her down because they think that she put a curse on them decades before. And she ends up running into and falling in love with a woman named Homily who happens to be part of this family. So she is like about to tell Homily that she is the worm, but she is not as bad as they think she is when she finds out that she is part of the family and this woman is here hunting the worm. So this book follows them hunting the worm because Shasheshin tells Homily that she'll help her. And Homily trusts her and believes that she's a human for the majority of the book. So this is just following Shasheshin and Homily as they hunt down the worm. It was pretty good. I liked it a lot. I gave it actually 4.75. I don't remember what I told you, but it was 4.75 stars. And I would definitely recommend this to people. I would be cautious if you get queasy around body horror. There's a lot of that in this. Quite a few people die, and it's described pretty in depth. So just be careful. Maybe check the trigger warnings if you are concerned about something like that. Otherwise, I think it was very good and would recommend. Next up, we have The Ministry of Time by Kaylee and Bradley. Essentially, the government has figured out how to time travel, and they are bringing people back from the past into the future, not into the future, into the present day. And our main character is like a keeper for one of these time travelers. They end up falling in love, and they also end up finding out that the government may not be doing this project for the right reasons. Kind of. I guess. I think that if you liked Doctor Who, you would probably like this. There isn't a ton of time travel in it. They do use like the time traveling machine a few times and like talk about the history and stuff like that. But I think if you like how the Doctor always has companions and what they get up to together, you would probably enjoy this. This is a little bit more serious than a lot of Doctor Who episodes, though. I gave this one 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. This was also for a prompt in the Stampathon. I think it was for 2 M's in the title, and someone you can build a nest in was for nose on the cover. I did finish that TBR. It came right down to the last second yesterday because this is September 1st that I'm filming, but I did finish it, and I will put the graphic of the finished books up here at some point in the video to show you all. Next up, we have We All Want Impossible Things by Catherine Newman. I bought this, I think, in May and have been trying to get to it ever since. I really loved this one. It was also 5 stars. Catherine Newman is the same author as Sandwich, which is currently my best book of the year, although this one is also pretty high up there. I think it's like right below Sandwich for me right now. This book is only like 209 pages or something like that. It's very short, and it is following Edie and Ash, who are best friends. Edie has cancer and is dying from it. We start out the book with the doctors essentially saying you need to find her a hospice to get into because she doesn't have much longer. Well, they find a hospice and it happens to be close to Ash because all of the ones close to Edie are full. So Ash is responsible for making sure that her friend gets the care that she needs and taking care of her, essentially, like going and being the person who visits her all the time, because Edie and her husband decide that they don't want their son to see Edie in decline. Like, they want him to remember when she was healthy more than she was sick. So it is primarily Ash taking care of Edie, and we just follow them while Edie's going through hospice and eventually dying. And I just think that Catherine Newman, the way that she writes about the human condition and anxiety, speaks to me so much, and I will probably read anything that she puts out. I've already pre-ordered her new book, Wreck, that comes out in, I think, January, and I cannot wait to read it. I am also going to work on getting the rest of her backlist and read all of those. At least everything that's fiction. I don't know that I'm interested in her nonfiction, but so far, Catherine Newman is 2 for 2. Next up, we have the last book that I finished, and that was Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. This is V.E. Schwab's newest release. It came out maybe like 2 or 3 months ago at this point. This is about lesbian vampires, and I really enjoyed it. However, I felt like it had some pacing issues. So we get different parts. You can see, maybe, it's hard to see, but see all these like little gray specks on the pages? Those are all different parts, and it keeps switching back and forth between the point of views of, at first it's only 2 people, and then it's adds a 3rd person in towards the end. I don't remember where she came in exactly, but we are following Maria, who eventually ends up changing her name to Sabine for reasons I don't want to share. It's like a big plot point in the book, but she is a woman, I think in like the 1500s or something. Or maybe the 1600s, we can go look really quick. 1532. She is in Spain, I think, and she ends up marrying a man who is not very nice. He's a count or something like that. He's like high up in royalty, but he's not a king. He's like the next layer down from the king and queen in the royal family. She ends up marrying this man who kind of sucks, won't let her ride her horse or do anything fun, and then he continues to take away everything fun in her life, and she keeps taking tonics so that she doesn't give him an heir, which is what he wants. He wants an heir, not for her to not have one. And long story short, she ends up getting turned into a vampire, maybe like 5 years into their marriage or something, and she goes and kills the whole family. Yeah. And then we also have what is her name? Alice. We have Alice set in 2019, or she died in 2019. They have like death dates, and that's when they got turned into a vampire. And Alice's is in 2019. However, she got turned against her will. And you find out how all of these characters, because we also have someone named Lottie that I don't want to tell you too much about because she's the one who doesn't come in until like halfway through the book. And they're all interconnected. And a lot of people die. And yeah. I don't know what else to tell you about it. This book is very long. It's very big. And I did like it. I thought it was written very beautifully. But the pacing was just weird. So we get like a ton of time with Alice and a ton of time with Maria / Sabine, but then Lottie comes in towards the end and we barely get any time with her, and it felt like we were getting to a point where there's a lot of action happening and then the action is interrupted by getting Lottie's story. I feel like we should have gotten Lottie's story earlier so that the action was not interrupted, because it immediately slowed down, and like if I was reading physically instead of listening to it, I probably wouldn't have kept going, or it would have taken me a long time to get through the last few sections. So yeah, gave it 4 stars because of the pacing issues. The writing was beautiful. I love lesbian vampires. Yeah. I have seen people compare this to The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I definitely think that the writing mirrors that book quite a bit, and there are a couple of scenes in this that kind of sound like they could have been recycled from Addie LaRue. Like there's a scene about chocolate, and I distinctly remember a scene about chocolate in Addie LaRue. But yeah, it's very different, but in the same vein. And B.E. Schwab has said that this is like Addie LaRue's big sister, pretty much. So take with that what you will. Do with that what you will. Next up, we have None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. I gave this one 4 stars. I'm probably going to unhaul it just because I don't think I'll reread it now that I know what happens in it. This was my mom and I's buddy read. I think she also gave it 4 stars. And this was very compelling, and it was very easy for me to want to finish it quickly because I wanted to know what happened. Essentially, we are following 2 women. I can't remember their names. I read so many books this month, I don't remember anyone's names. Alex and Josie. So Alex is a podcaster who's famous, and Josie is just like a regular woman. And they are both out celebrating their birthday at the pub. Josie has not had the best life, and Alex is doing podcasts on like women who leave bad situations and stuff like that. And Josie approaches her and like basically forces herself into Alex's life and makes her do a podcast about her. And it comes to light that Josie is like alleging that her husband groomed her, which I think is true. But there are a few chapters that make me think that maybe Josie wasn't as innocent as she plays herself off to be. And as Alex is interviewing Josie for this new podcast, she keeps finding out more and more about Josie and her life that makes her concerned that Josie isn't all right, like mentally. And I can't remember exactly what happens now because I've read like 10 books since I finished this, but Alex asks Josie to leave essentially, and she doesn't like that. And so Josie takes matters into her own hands, and people die because of what Josie does. Yeah, I don't know. I will say that if you read this one, try to get your hands on the audiobook just so you can listen to the bonus chapter, because I was reading this physically while listening to the audiobook, and this book does not have the bonus chapter that the audiobook does. And the audiobook made it more clear to me what had happened at the end. So, yeah. We've got the last physical book that I read this month, and that is Writers and Lovers by Lily King. This was on my 25 and 25. I think Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil was also on that, and then I read 2 of the books that were on the NPR's best book list. So we're making progress on those. But this follows a woman who is trying her best to be an author, but she just like isn't getting published, and her mom has recently died. So this is following her after her mom has died. It's probably like 6 months to a year or something afterwards, so she's still actively grieving and isn't quite sure what to do. So she's working at a restaurant, and she ends up dating a few people, and the book is basically following her relationships with these people and how she works through her grief and decides what she wants the rest of her life to look like. I think I originally gave this 5 stars, but I downgraded it to 4 simply because it didn't stick with me a ton, as you can tell from my very vague plot description. It was good. I liked the writing a lot. And then listening to the audiobook, I listened to the whole thing in one sitting because I was having such a good time with it. But what I just told you is basically what I remember about the book. I remember a few more details, but they're like very specific, so there's no point in telling you about them in the plot description. But I would recommend it. Alright, moving on to the books that I read that were not on my physical TBR. I read a couple of ARCs. I'll put them up here. Neither of them were great. They were ARCs that I got like 4 or 5 years ago when I first tried out NetGalley and decided I just didn't have time for that. The first one was I Am Margaret Moore by Hannah Capin, and the other one is Oddball by Sarah Anderson, and Oddball was like a graphic novel collection. It was like a collection of a bunch of little 4-panel comics. I don't know really what to tell you about Oddball other than it was fun. I liked the artist that put it out, Sarah Anderson, but it's definitely like of its time. Like I wouldn't pick it up today. And I think the reason I requested this on NetGalley was because I thought it was by someone else. I thought it was by the person who illustrated Hyperbole and a Half, and I can't remember the other one. I can't remember the name of the other one, but the person who did Hyperbole and a Half, which is one of my absolute favorite graphic novels. As for I Am Margaret Moore, I got the audiobook of this to listen to, and this book was just so long. It's basically about a girl at a summer camp who ends up pregnant, and then the boy pretends that he didn't know what he was doing and she's going to ruin his life, and she ends up dying. I won't tell you how, but she ends up dying and becoming a ghost and haunting this summer camp and haunting the boy, essentially. But they just kept rehashing that she was a ghost so many times, and I really feel like this could have been 100 pages shorter and we would have had the same impact. And the last section, part 3, just kept going and we didn't need it. So this one got a 2. Sarah's Scribbles, or Oddball, got 3.5 because it was still fun, but Margaret Moore was not fun. I did not enjoy that. I don't recommend it. Next up, we have The Magic Fish by Trung Le Nguyen. Put it up here. I had a hold on this from the library. I originally was trying to read it for the Asian Readathon, and it didn't come in time, so I read it when I got it a few weeks ago. I really enjoyed it. I thought the art was beautiful, and I thought the plot was beautiful. It talked a lot about the immigrant experience in the United States and how, you know, you want to go back to visit your family, but also, is it safe to visit your family? Do you have the money to visit your family? And then by the time you finally decide to go, it's too late because like somebody's died or somebody is in terrible health. So, and it was also about a boy coming out to his pretty strict Vietnamese family. I think they were Vietnamese. I think Nguyen is a Vietnamese name. He ends up coming out to his family, and he's very worried because like traditionally being gay isn't really acceptable in Vietnamese culture, so he's very scared that his parents are going to take it poorly. They don't, but yeah, that's what it is. It was good. I liked it quite a bit. I wouldn't mind owning a copy of it. Next I have an audiobook, one of the ones that I had on Audible. That was The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. I rated this one 4 stars. This is about a man who has to solve a mystery. Somebody gets murdered, and it keeps happening every single day. So every single day he wakes up in a new body, and he has to try and figure out who is killing this woman, why is she being murdered. And the book just goes on like that for quite a while. I really liked it. I thought the idea was very inventive, and I liked the writing. I just think it was too long. I think it kept going too long. So this is quite dark. If you like mysteries or thrillers, I would recommend it, especially if you like, what are they called? Mistborn Era 2. If you liked those, I recommend this. I would also compare it to, what was that one? The Tainted Cup. If you like that, I would also recommend you read this. They are not exactly the same. I liked this more than I liked The Tainted Cup, but they have very similar vibes. So, the next one I've got was another arc, and that was The Future Saints by Ashley Winstead. I am very surprised that I got this book. I requested it on a whim when I saw Ashley post that arcs were out and you could go request it, and I almost immediately got accepted, which was very surprising to me because at that point I had a 0% review rate on NetGalley. So I don't know what made them give me the book, but I'm very happy they did. I enjoyed it quite a bit. This is compared to like Daisy Jones and the Six. It's not exactly the same as Daisy Jones and the Six. So Daisy Jones is more of an interview format, and while there are interviews in The Future Saints, they are not the primary focus. They are like little chapters between the main chapters that you get glimpses of what's happening in the main chapters. So we have The Future Saints, which is a band. It has 3 people in it. The lead singer, I'm gonna apologize, I don't remember any of their names. This was one of the first things I read this month. The lead singer, her sister was their manager and has recently died and the band is not doing well. So it was the lead singer's sister, and then the other two were pretty close with her. One of them even dated her at one point, and they were very close. Her sister died in a surfing accident while she was visiting home, and none of them are over it, essentially, and the band is suffering because of it. So the label ends up sending in our other main character. I also can't remember his name, I'm sorry. He gets sent in and is supposed to, I think his nickname at the label is like the Fixer or something, and he is supposed to just get the last album that the band is contracted for out of them and be done. But he ends up falling in love with the lead singer and actually becoming really invested in the band's success, and he wants them to be okay mentally and physically, and he just ends up being a lot more invested in the band than the label intended him to be. So we get like two viewpoints. We get one from, I think her name is Hannah, the lead singer's name is Hannah, and then the Fixer, whose name I cannot remember. So it keeps alternating between them, and we get to see them as the band goes on. So you're following a band, but you're not following them in like an interview format like Daisy Jones and the Six was. I really liked this. I gave it 4.5 stars. It was not at the 5-star level for me, but I really appreciated Ashley's discussion of grief in this book. I think it was her last book, This Book Will Bury Me. In her author's note, she talked a lot about how her dad has recently died, and I connect to that a lot. This Book Will Bury Me is probably my favorite of hers because I did connect to that one so much, and it was about a girl whose dad unexpectedly died and her process of grieving afterwards. And this is very similar. It's a different kind of grief since it's not her dad that dies, it's her sister, but I still enjoy is a weird word. It's like cathartic, not enjoyment. I liked reading about grief, and I liked the way that Ashley Winstead writes about grief. I just felt like the Future Saints had something missing, and maybe that's a me problem because I was comparing it to Daisy Jones and the Six, and I shouldn't have been. But yeah, very good. I still recommend it. It comes out in January, I think. I'll put the date up here so that you know. It comes out, I'm pretty sure, in January. So if you have liked Ashley Winstead in the past, I definitely recommend giving this one a try. It is definitely different from her thrillers, but still very good. Next up, we have Business Casual, which is the last book in the Lovelight Farms series. It's not, you don't have to read them in order. I'm pretty sure you can read them in whatever order you want and be fine. But this one was okay. I gave it 4.5 stars. I don't remember a single thing about it right now. So I don't know why I gave it 4.5 stars. Like, I can't remember anything about this book. We have Nova, who's a tattoo artist, and she's trying to open a new tattoo studio in her hometown. And she tries to have a one-night stand with this guy named Charlie. I think Charlie is the Christmas tree owner's brother. Like, brother that she didn't know she had until very recently. And so the book opens on the Christmas tree farm owner's wedding. And Nova and Charlie have had this like back and forth pretty consistently, where Charlie acts like he thinks Nova's really hot and she pretends she doesn't like him. And long story short, they end up together. It's kind of like the opposite of where they like Hallmark movies, where a small town guy convinces the city girl to move to the small town and be in love with him for the rest of her life. It's like the opposite, because it's a small town girl convincing the city boy that he should just stay. It was pretty good. I liked it. I liked the series as a whole, and I am excited to move on to First Time Caller, which is the first in B.K. Morrison's new series. Hopefully we'll be reading that in the next month or two. And then next, we're almost done. We only have 3 left. I read The Blonde Identity by Allie Carter. This is the same author as, what was it called? The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year that I read in January. I liked both of those books. This one's very similar to The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year, except it's not Christmas based. It was good. I don't remember much. If I'm being honest, the only reason I read it was because I have the second one as an arc and I need to get to it, but I need to read the first one first. So it was more of like a mystery situation. Our main female character, it's like another mystery thriller romance mixed with a romance. Our main character has amnesia and she can't remember why she is where she is when she wakes up, but she finds herself in the middle of a situation that's not fun to be in, and turns out she has a twin sister, and all these people are after her because they don't know that her twin sister has a sister. Yeah, and then she is working with her twin sister's partner, like spy partner, not romantic partner, and they end up becoming romantically involved. through the whole thing. It's very cute, very fun to read. I gave it 3.5 stars. Decided to get to the arc of the second one. Next up, I reread Twilight. I am planning to reread the rest of the series. I kind of thought that our Discord was going to read them all together, but I think that's fallen off. So we'll see when I actually get to the rest of them. I don't think you need me to tell you what the plot of Twilight is. I didn't rate my reread. If I had to rate it, it'd probably be like a 2.5 or a 3. It was fine. I don't know why I was so obsessed with it in middle school, if I'm being completely honest. I do still love the movies. Love to hate them kind of situation. But yeah. The last book that I finished in August, and the last one we'll talk about right now, is Nora Goes Off Script by Annabelle Monaghan. And this was for the Library Romance Book Club. It was okay. I gave it 4 stars. It's not my favorite romance ever, but it was different, and it was nice to read something a little different. This is about a woman who is a screenwriter. I don't think screenplay is the right term. And she has written a movie called The Tea House. She usually writes movie scripts for like their version of Hallmark movies. So she just cranks them out every year and gets like, I don't know, like $20,000 a script or something. And this movie, The Tea House, is based on her ex-husband leaving her and that situation and like how it all played out. And it ends up becoming a like Oscar nominated movie. And the studio that films the movie decides to do it on site at her house in the actual tea house that she experienced this thing in. And she ends up letting the main actor stay at her house. It was only supposed to be for a week. He offered to pay her $1,000 a day just to let him hang out and be like a normal person for a week. He ends up staying a lot longer than that, and they end up becoming romantically involved, and then he leaves for a new part in a movie, and he promises that he'll be back in time for her son's play that he has been helping direct, and then he is not back in time. And he, for some reason that you find out towards the end of the book, just doesn't come back and stops talking to her. And so for a good chunk of the book, we're seeing how she is reacting to being left again. This is a very similar way to how her husband left her. And we get to see like inside her brain and how she is processing being left by 2 men. And in the end, they do end up back together, but it is a struggle to get there. So yeah, it was good. I liked it. It was 4 stars. I don't think I took a copy of it home from the bookstore. It's not in my stack anyway. I don't think I took a copy home. But yeah, that is the last book that I read. This was a very busy month. I don't know how I got through this many books. Since this is so long, like I've been recording my reviews for 40 minutes, we are going to split this up and have the reviews in one video and then my book journal update in another video. So if you want to see that, make sure you watch my channel. Thank you for hanging out through all of these reviews. I know it was a lot. If you've stuck around this long and you don't have anything to say, leave me, I don't know if there's like a soda pop emoji or like the bubble emoji. Leave me that, because this was probably the best book of the month. Yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.